And let's see, we got Henry over here, who is going to be our speaker for later on today, 8th Air Force. We got Dick Bailey over here, our 9th Air Force, our B-26 pilot. We got Bob Jones back here, our Air Transport Command guy flying into China. Bob, hold your hand up. There we go. Jack Kraft is going to be coming back with us. He came in, checked in, said he's going to come back for the presentation, but you'll see him when he comes back in. He's wearing a World War II hat. He's a 36th Infantry Division guy, landed a few days after D-Day and walked across Europe all the way to the end of the war. So you'll see Jack. He's wearing his hat. So say hey to him. And then, of course, we need to recognize our Korean War, Vietnam War guy, Bill Leach, right over here. Bill, hold your hand up. There we go. We got Albert McMahon's family here, and you guys hold your hand up. It's been a while since we've seen you guys. So glad to have you guys back joining us. With that, it was Albert McMahon, and it was Henry that introduced me to this group. Albert was a tail gunner in the 306 in the early days. Albert passed on, and Albert's funeral is going to be at Arlington the 20th of this month, 22nd of this month, I'm sorry. And quite an event if you've ever been to a funeral at Arlington. If you'd like to go, let's just please get with the family and let them know. The only reason why is because at Arlington they have like 30 funerals a day. Albert's going to be the last one of the day. Things have to happen on time. You got to be at a certain place at 2 o'clock that day. But I tell you, you will not see a more respectful funeral than you'll see at Arlington. And it is a very beautiful event when you go there. And it is a celebration of our country and of course the veteran. So if anyone think you want to attend that, just get with the family so we can get some details of it after that, all right? With that, oh, that's right, we got Roger McKenzie's family here. Jan, thanks so much for coming today. You guys remember Roger McKenzie? Longtime member, B-17 driver. And then he became an airline, flew an airline career. We always remember Roger McKenzie because he could probably buy and sell all of us, but he used to pack in a old Singer suitcase. When we went to Savannah, I was like, Roger, what is that? He's like, this is my suitcase. And I'm like, that's for a sewing machine. He's like, works good as a suitcase. Just a great, great guy. Bob, you got a friend with you today.
Yes, Jeff Johnson from Cox Enterprises.
Jeff, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Jeff Johnson from Cox Enterprises. Very good. All right. And of course. Oh, thank you. Gene says you couldn't do without me, but I know a lot of people that could do without me. All right. Do we have any other? We're going to talk about that later on. All right? All right. With that, and by the way, let's welcome back. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Oh, Michael? Well, oh, you're right, Michael. I didn't introduce. I got my new son, Michael, with me today. Michael, hold your hand up. And Michael's got his good friend Isaiah. We're going to take Michael and Isaiah to the Hawks game tonight. And then Bob over here is another good friend of his, Bob Davis, and cadet and JROTC. And I asked Bob to wear his uniform. And he's got his formal tonight. So appreciate that. Got his military ball tonight. That's right. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. No, that's okay. All right. With that then, it's... Well, that's true, too. We got Tim Drake here, Inherited Freedom. He was our speaker a few months ago. Just an outstanding guy, great presentation, and a great author. Tim, hold your hand up. There we go. There you go. All right. Gene, is there anybody else? With Jan, Roger, yeah. Jan's friend, Roger, hold your hand up. Roger, thanks for joining us too, buddy. I appreciate that. Well, that is true. We do have our youngest member and the newest of the family. Thank you guys for bringing Carolyn out over here. Greg and Jen. Thank you for... This young lady's going to get to see a lot of air shows and a lot of veterans. Oh, thank you. Hey, Ray. Good to see you, man. That is true. All part of our family here. That is very true. But you know what? It's a poor dog that don't praise his own pen. And I love it when we celebrate those in our, and really we're all part of this 8th Air Force family. And really do enjoy coming here on this Saturday and getting to spend time with you. Anything else? No, that's okay? All right. All right, well, with that, then lunch is served. Let's go ahead and enjoy our lunch, and then we got a few other things, announcements later on. Thank you so much for being here. Another special event that happened just recently, on the 7th of March, our speaker and his beautiful bride, Jean, had an anniversary. And it was their 71st anniversary for Jean and Henry. And Ray says, Jean, you way over married. And oh, wait a minute. Okay, another way around. All right. Whatever way that compliments Jean is what I'm trying to say here. And we got a little bit of cake here, so let you guys see this. And while they do that, let's just sing them happy anniversary. Kind of sounds like happy birthday, but you just say anniversary. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Henry and Jean. Happy anniversary to you. Let me just give this to Jean. I think she'd probably like to say something. Wait a minute. This is the one time you're not going to say anything?
I just want to, I would just like to say thank you for that lovely song, because it's the first time we've ever had an anniversary song sung to us in 71 years. I'm going for another 71. I said after I did all those I do's and promises when he waltzed me down the aisle in Mississippi, that I knew it was forever, and I gave him 71 of the best years of my life, but he's given me 71 of the best years of his life, so it just evens out. So sweet.
And they told me it couldn't happen here. Give me your attention. We're prepared for takeoff. I never dreamed that I'd ever be sitting in a position like this. I was just a kid when I went into the 8th Air Force. Grand old man of 18 years of age. Just barely had turned 18. When they formed a crew and trained us in Oklahoma. When we touched down on the runway at Lavenham, England, January 1, 1945, my tail gunner and I had just completed our first year in the military and 16th mission from November until December. That's a lot of missions. I had a weird crew. Cicerano engineer, John F. McKee, both from New York, Jimmy and I from Memphis. But we were so relaxed you would not believe it. Now I know you've heard the stories and you've seen the sad stories of men who were really nervous wrecks flying missions. Our attitude was unbelievable, and I have determined that it's because we were so young we didn't know any better. You can worry yourself sick, or you can say, these missions are coming too fast, but the faster we fly them, the faster we go home. And that was the goal, to go home. Brent is going to take us from here.
What we've done is we prepared a few slides as a lead-in, because truly what we're going to do here today is Henry's going to talk about his shoot down on 2 March. It just, this opportunity doesn't happen too often that we have a couple of anniversaries, their 71st wedding anniversary and the anniversary of his shoot down. But we thought a good lead-in would be just a few slides about Henry's bomb group, about his position, what he did. And the first slide I have up here, Henry, is just, the 487th, the Gentleman from Hell. You care to tell why you guys were called the Gentleman from Hell? Why you were called the Gentleman from Hell?
Yes. No, I don't know who came up with that, but I got one emblem on my jacket at home.
Okay. You see the stats for his unit. Let's go to the next slide. Again, that's just a little bit of just a synopsis about the 487th. I think it's kind of important here. The unit's first commander was Lieutenant Colonel Bernie Lay Jr. He's the guy that wrote 12 O'Clock High. Next slide. And of course, 12 O'Clock High, that's the 306. It became the 918th. Probably one of the greatest movies written about or made about the 8th Air Force, even on leadership. It's still used at the Air Force Academy. Talk about leadership. Next slide. And let's just go to the next slide. Yep, there they are, and that's the story behind the old Gentleman from Hell there.
They said the British troops who were stationed at El Magorda, that it was hotter than hell in El Magorda in the summertime. And that's where that came from.
All right, next slide.
That group was activated at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Square P. Square P is the tail marking of the 487th, which led the largest aerial combat mission in the history of aerial warfare. December 24th, 1944. My group, unfortunately, lost 114 young men in 15 minutes. The German fighters jumped us. They didn't wait for us to get into Germany. They came into our side. And our fighter protection hadn't gotten up with us yet. And I had my turret set with creep, so that it never stopped turning. And you hold your hands up like this and operate the machine, your blood runs out of your arms and it goes to sleep on you. So put creep and just steady going. And as I came around from the 3 o'clock position, ME-109 went right through our squadron. And I said, ball the turret to gunner. And ME-109 just went through our formation. Another one, and another one. General Fred Castle was right off our right wing. He was hit. Number 3 engine's on fire. He put his gear down, and I never did figure that one out other than it was a signal to the deputy lead to take over. He pulled his gear back up and moved out of the formation, and that's the last we saw of him. And then we went on from there.
Next slide. There we go, right there. That is the young Henry Hughey there. Camp Shelby, Mississippi, 1944, with his best friend James Spurlock. And I think you just talked about James just a minute ago, didn't you?
Yeah, Jimmy and I are both from Memphis, Tennessee. We were born the same year and the same month. And I knew him before we went in the service. And I always teased Jimmy, I said, I never will be as old as you are, you old coot. We got separated and then got joined together and stayed together the rest of the war. there was something wrong with our crew. They were too relaxed. We never showed much nervousness. We complained a little bit about having to fly so many missions, but then, as I said before, the quicker we fly, the quicker we're going home. And I thought I would analyze this 27th mission, because if it's like you get up this morning and you're full of vim, vigor, and vitality, and the first thing you try to do goes sour, and as the day progresses, it only gets worse. And that's what happened on March the 2nd, 1944. Our target was Dresden, Germany. We crossed the channel. I heard the pilot and the the navigator discussing our position. We're out of position. We're off course. He called the group. They said, no, we're on course. And about that time, 8 bursts of flak called us. We knew we had damage, nothing serious. We continued on and got to Dresden. We turned on the MPI, started a bomb run, and the co-pilot announced that we're losing oil pressure on number 4. We'd have to feather immediately. So we did. So we got 3 engines, but old bird will fly on 3. Right after the bombs way, immediately, we lost another engine. Now we're down to 2. 8th Command advised us to head into Warsaw, Poland, and to seek our Russian allies, which we did, which produced the roughest ride I ever had in my life in an airplane. We hit a snowstorm that was unbelievable. That was the roughest ride. I've never even bounced so hard in my life in an airplane. I was aware that everything wasn't going right because I just lost power in my turret. Now I'm in that ball hanging underneath that airplane and no power. However, they do design cranks. And in there was a crank, and I cranked down the turret to the stowed position and got out and then cranked it back up. And then I said, I'll go back and stay with Jimmy. And I went back to the tail and I said, fella, you can stay back here if you want to, but I'm getting sick. That tail was being whipped around so you wouldn't believe it. I'm going to the radio room where center of gravity is a little more stable. I went back, and we finally broke out of that snowstorm, which you could not see your wings. You didn't know you even had any. And we saw what looked like a fighter strip. It was decided to try to land there. Put the gear down, the flaps down, and the co-pilot on the final approach said, it's too short, and there are tank traps at the ends of the runway. Can you believe steel beams at the end of the runway? Somebody made a terrible mistake on that design. So we lost one more engine. Now we're down to 1. There's only one way you can go with 1 engine, and that's down. But we went across a 4-lane highway, clipping trees. We settled into Cabbage Patch, we thought, and we got picked up by the Russian Air Force. Now, we were very fortunate. Our bombardier, Johnny Welko, his father was Russian, his mother was Polish, and Johnny spoke all 3. And he was quite a hero as far as we were concerned, because we could at least communicate with the Russians. They just took us into a neighborhood of civilian housing, knocked on the door and said, you will put these 2 men up. It was not a request, it was a demand, and you dare not refuse. They took us out the next day to get our bags out of the airplane, and the Russians said, "Niet, you have landed in a German minefield. We stood there and literally watched them blow up mines all the way around that airplane. If we hadn't done a true belly landing, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I'd be dead, because we would have detonated those bombs. And you know, the Russians put new engines on that airplane and flew it to the end of the war. They treated us fine. As a matter of fact, there was a famous Russian general who was stopped in Warsaw, and they were going to take us to Moscow to meet Joseph Stalin. And that eager beaver pile of ours said, no, we got a war to fight. So after about 3 or 4 days, the Air Transport Command was going to send a C-47 in to pick us up. We loaded our bags up to the field, and the Russians said, no, we don't fly on instruments, and we don't allow you to fly on instruments. We don't allow our own planes to fly on instruments. If you up there on instruments, we'll shoot at you. So we took a lug back down to the houses. A couple of days it cleared, and a C-47 came in. And in the meantime, there were 2 other crews landed in the big airport. And they did have some battle damage, but no casualties. There was a navigator bombardier on one of those crews. This is a little side story from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I met him and talked to him, and he and I got along fine. He was familiar with Memphis. And many years after the war, 3 or 4, Gene and I were at dinner in Britling's cafeteria in Memphis. And I said, Gene, I know this guy over here, but I cannot place him. And I said, well, forget it. We started out of the restaurant and started down the aisle out, and this guy stood up and pointed at me and said, Henry Hughey. This was the bombardier navigator from that crew. What a miracle. When we got on this C-47 to go back, the first stop was Poltava in Russia. It was an American base used during the war when they had this shuttle missions from England to Germany and then back across. And I'm not really sure exactly where to go from here, because that was such a short trip there, but they sent a C-46 in there and took us to Tehran. Now, the Persian Gulf Command headquarters was in Tehran. And they put us up in an old mess hall. This staff sergeant was an acting first sergeant. And remember, these are infantry people. And he was talking to us, and our navigator and bombardier stuck their head in the door and said, hey guys, come on, we're going on a sightseeing tour. We got a truck, we're going to take you for a ride. So we said, okay. And his staff sergeant said, what kind of outfit are you guys with? I said, what are you talking about? He said, your officers are going to take you enlisted men on a sightseeing tour? I said, certainly, why not? This is an infantry outfit, and we don't do that. Enlisted men and officers did not socialize. But there's one thing about a crew you got to remember. You're a unit with one job, and I don't care, there's 9 men on the plane, but you act as one individual. Your aircraft commander is that, the commander. Any man who lets down on his job could cost the life of his friend. And this never took place. I just cannot overemphasize the oneness of a crew. On my very first mission, I saw a aircraft on fire, number 3 engine, and I was told he was advised to pull away from the formation and bail out. As he started to pull away, boom, that fuel hit those tanks and that fire. And it was an explosion that took a million pieces of aluminum falling through the air and cost 9 young men. If one dies, you probably will all die. The survival depends on all 9 men. Enough said about that. That's just the way it was. We took off then and went from Tehran to Cairo, Egypt. And Memphis, Tennessee was, I guess, came from the Egyptian. And Jimmy and I went to the Cairo Memphis Bazaar. It's a shopping area. And Cairo was crowded. It was British control. And the field we landed on, we were simply waiting for an airplane to take us back to England. And we were getting ready to board, and the sergeant in charge said, "I want to see your shot record." I said, "Sergeant, let me explain something to you. Technically, we are still on a mission. And if I've got anything on my person to identify me other than my dog tags, I'm subject to court-martial. I don't have any thing of that nature on me." This colonel standing there and said, "Get on the damn airplane." We did. And we went to North Africa. We spent a couple of days there. Then we took off and we went to Naples, Italy. Now, my engineer, Anthony Cicerone, was Brooklyn, the Italian extraction. And he said, "Do any of you kids ever drink any Dago red wine? We're 19 years old, we don't drink wine. Have a hard time with milk." And he took us to a little kiosk there, and he bought a bottle of red wine. It'll blow your top off. Whew. We didn't go back for seconds. And then we went from there to Marseille, let a man off who was using that flight to get there. Went to Paris, and a little embarrassing incident happened there. That was strictly a refueling stop. We stopped, refueled, we took off. We never got out of the traffic pattern. And the next thing I know, we're landing again. I thought, what in the world is going on? Embarrassingly, the crew chief had failed to pull the down locks out of the landing gear, so we couldn't pull them up. And he had to slide his down lock pins out, get back on board, and take off again. We went back to England, landed outside of London, got on a train and went back to England. Got out of the tunnel, started up the stairs, and just as we hit the street, boom, 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 V2s. I said, we need to go back to Russia. They don't have them over there. We went back to the base and flew 5 more missions. The original tour was 25, and then there were people surviving more, so they took it to 35. And then toward the end of the war, which this time was nearing the end, too many guys were surviving. The bases were accumulating spare gunners. So the powers that be decided that the tail gunner, the waist gunner, and the ball turret would come off of the crew at 32. the last 3 missions would be flown by spare gunners. The poor guys would never get home either till they died or the war ended, which didn't make anybody mad. And I made a mistake, though. I used that. I went into the orderly room with Captain Moser, and I said, "Captain, today was my 32nd. I think I'm through." He said, "Just a minute, Sergeant." He checked, came back and said, "You're right, son. You're done." I said, "Captain, if you meet me at the NCO Club tonight, I'll buy you the biggest beer in all of Great Britain." And what I didn't know was my last mission was April 21st. Turned out to be the last mission my group ever flew, because on the 25th of April of 45, the 8th Air Force flew its last mission. And because I had collected on the profit of 32 missions, I was killed with KP, guard duty, trash hauling, and the rest of the guys got to fly home. But you see, the war ended, and we were turning the base back to the British. And believe me, folks, that base wasn't in that good a shape the day they gave it to us. They knew sidewalks, knew fences, knew rails, and we handed the British an airline operation, if they wanted it, ready-made. And then we looked up, and I came home on the Queen Mary. And I'll end this story by saying that there was a lieutenant colonel fighter pilot. I was on the Queen Mary. There was something like 20,000 troops on board. Sardines in a can. And this guy was telling this colonel, when we get to New York in the port, do not let these men climb the rigging. Yes, sir. We got to New York. We pulled into the dock. They docked the Queen Mary. Kids climbed all over that railing, and the colonel said, "Oh, to hell with it." And that's all took place 74 years ago. Time flies when you're not looking. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your support for the Georgia chapter. And please keep your continued support for our museum in Savannah. Brent told me earlier, a couple of days ago, that he was at a meeting a couple of days in Savannah at your museum, Henry. And I said, "You only say that because it's true." You will never know really the agony, and sometimes it was so pitiful trying to get that museum started. I was on the National Board of Directors when we voted to give $120,000 seed money to the museum, and I was on the board of directors of the museum as the treasurer. And of all those original board members, I'm the only one left, and that's because I'm so young. But thank you for your support, folks. We could never have done it without you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, Henry, I think there's going to be a few questions for you. Ray's got his hand up. Yes, sir, Ray.
Henry, what would you describe as being your toughest mission?
Ray has asked, what would you describe as being your toughest mission?
Well, actually, the toughest mission, I guess, was Christmas Eve of '44. That was during the Battle of the Bulge. The Germans almost pushed us back into the Channel folks you'll never know. They cleaned house at my bomb group. If you weren't on a combat crew, you were in the infantry. Base tailor, base everything. And there's one old boy, Sergeant Sweeney, Fred Sweeney. Fred was a radio operator. His crew got shot up real bad. They ditched in the channel, and he said they were in the water 30 minutes when Air Sea Rescue pulled them out. And he said, I don't want to fly anymore. They said, fine. You'll be permanent charge of quarters. So he's a guy that came in and shook you up in the morning and said, you're flying today, get going. And then when the Battle of the Bulge came, they said, Fred, you either go back to flying or you'll be in the infantry in the morning. And he was quoted as saying, Colonel, what time did you say takeoff was? Nobody wanted any part of that infantry. But it's I don't know.
Any other questions? Dennis has a question for you.
Henry, could you tell us about when you were in the rest home and another crew took your aircraft?
Took what?
I'll talk.
You guys were in the rest home, you were in another crew took your aircraft?
What started this thing going sour on the 27th mission, we went in February of 44, we were sent to a rest home up in Southport, England on the Irish Sea. And there were some pretty bad crews up there, pretty bad shape, nerves. But we took over the Skatesburg Hotel, and when we came back, Hal Roberts' crew took our airplane because his was in the shop and got it shot all to pieces. When we came back, when we started this mission, that's when we knew something was wrong. Our airplane was gone. It's in the hangar. It's all shot up. And I teased Hal Roberts till the day he died. I said, we got even with you for messing up our good bird. We didn't even bring yours back. It only took us 30 days to finish that mission. And, but you see, they didn't salvage that airplane. There was nothing left. They all survived. Nobody was killed in that crash, believe it or not. That was a good old airplane. Our crew chief, I've often said this, and I'll do it again as often as I can. The unsung heroes of the 8th Air Force were the ground personnel. Gentlemen, we came home and went to briefing or debriefing, went to the mess hall, got back into bed and slept at night. Those ground personnel worked all night long to make sure those planes would fly again tomorrow. I don't know what we'd have done without them.
How about other questions right now?
Hey, Brent,
Okay, yeah, Tim?
I asked Henry, I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear his perspective. When they quit painting the planes, they didn't paint them anymore, and I can't remember why that happened.
Henry, Tim Drake is asking you a question about when they stopped painting the B-17s. They were painting them green, camouflage, and they started just leaving them silver. Do you know why that was?
Yeah. Well, the old theory was olive drab is camouflage. Cloudy, be hard to see. And then that was before the days of radar. The Germans had radar too. And they don't care what color your airplane is. It'll pick it up. And you got I don't know how many pounds of paint on an aircraft that could be turned into fuel. So they stopped. We had one airplane in our bomb group. It was called Honorable Patches. It was a silver aluminum body. Every time they'd get battle damage and made a patch, they painted it red. It was a solid red aircraft. That's a true story. That day we went down. We got hit by flak. That's what put us in trouble. It hit the engines, and they eventually started to let go. Gunners would rather be attacked by fighters because they can shoot back. It's mental. Flak is not a thing you can do except sit there and hope you're in the wrong place at the right time. Because I'm going to tell you, flak is bad news. On 30 November 44, we went to Merseburg, Germany, synthetic oil refinery. Hoo-wee. It was a clear day. The sky was solid black. And I thought, we got to fly through that to get to the target and fly the rest of the way through to get out. The 8th Air Force lost 56 bombers and 30 fighters in one day to flak. That's over 500 men gone. And you know why people say they're flak happy. It will get you. And the fighters, this is the sad part, gunnery. If there's no fighter attack, you're just dead weight. You're taking up space on an aircraft that could be hauling gallons of fuel, 100 octane. It could make the difference between getting back and not. We boarded one mission in the time we would travel. We lost, well, we took off, and it was bad weather, climbed here, down, up, and down, never thought we'd get joined up, and finally did get formed up. And we got over the target on the bomb run, or close to it. And the co-pilot called and said, well, boys, I got some good news, and I got some bad news. The good news is we got enough fuel to get to the target. The bad news, we don't have enough gas to get back. We aborted the mission. We dropped our bombs in the channel. That's the only one we missed. But fuel is important and can be critical.
Any other questions? Yeah, Lisa's got one, and then Ray's got one. Yeah, Lisa?
Actually, did you write your wife when you were right at all? And my question was, did you save any of his letters or any of?
I did John through the war. I met him just a couple of days before he was discharged.
The question was, did you write Jean during the war? And Jean answered the question and said she didn't know you till a few days after the discharge, which takes us to something we should have another program about someday. Jean was engaged to a Navy guy during the war, which is a great story, I know.
He got shot down.
Next month.
He got shot down, I'll tell you that.
Henry was recalled to Korea. He didn't go to Korea. He spent a whole year in town, but he was recalled for the Korean War. He flew sorties or whatever you call that evolution at night. And I did get some letters from him then. I'll have to look for them.
Okay.
Sweet letters, but I have to find them.
And Jean's just saying that Henry was recalled during the Korean War, went down to Tampa, did some training there, and he did write her some letters then that she's going to go look for. So, right, okay. Ray, you had a question.
Yeah, Henry, how long in the missions you flew, typically how long were they?
Well, it depends on how far you had to go. Our mission started with the sergeant quarters coming into your hut, raps you on the shoulder and said, you're flying today. Now, you got to shave, you get rid of all facial hair, because that mass is going to be clamped all day long from 10,000 feet up. And well, I was told somebody today, the B-17 was a fabulous airplane, but it was slow. Lord have mercy, it was slow. We had 100-mile-an-hour headwinds, 100-mile-an-hour tailwinds. You could take 4 hours to go in, take 7 hours to come out, or some variation in between. Because when you made that turn and started back into that headwind, 100-mile-an-hour headwind, you're making ground speed of 50 miles an hour, which is very slow. We used to like coastal runs because you go in over the water, make a pass over the land, drop your bombs, and you're gone. But some of the German islands were well fortified with 88 guns, so you had to be careful even there. I'll tell you, you count missions, I had a terrible sore throat. I went to sick call. Doc Lerner put me in the hospital, and wouldn't you know, the next day my crew is flying and I'm in the hospital. So I put on my GI robe that afternoon, and I'm walking up and down the ramp trying to see if my crew got back. They had to use a spare gunner. Doc Lerner said, "Put your clothes on, Sergeant, and get out of my hospital. You're disrupting the whole thing." So I did. So I went down to squadron operations. I said, "Look, if Lieutenant Miller is flying a mission and my crew is stood down, put me on his crew as flight engineer. Because now I'm one behind, and you don't want to be there." So his bombardier was sick in the hospital with pneumonia. So just shortly thereafter, I got a call. And I went to briefing, and it's sort of a milk run, if I remember right. The only thing I remember about the flight. But that man gave me the smoothest ride I ever had, and landing in a B-17. I'm calling off the airspeed as he's final approach. And I keep waiting for the brakes to squall, the tires to kick in. The next thing I know, he's turning off on the ramp. I said, "Lieutenant, how often do you make a landing like that?" He said, "About once every six months." That's the smoothest landing I was ever on. And I was in Jackson, Tennessee years later. A man came in with Markel Insurance. And he said, "I'm a road man. I check your drivers if they exceed the speed limit. You don't get a traffic ticket, but your insurance rate goes out through the roof." And when he got through, I said, "You were in the 8th Air Force during the war, weren't you?" And he said, "Yeah, I was." 47 Bomb Group, 838 Squadron. "Yeah, I was. How do you know?" "You don't remember me, sir, but I flew one mission with you as your engineer." That was Miller.
Wow. Henry, I want you to see a slide we put up here to show the longest mission that you flew, the 27th. And you can see we had it starting up in Germany at Dresden, then Poland, and you can see the circuitous route you had to take back because the Axis powers owned most of the stuff in the middle at that time.
Well, Germany was in pretty good shape in a lot of those areas. You couldn't fly back across there, not unescorted. And so it was a Cook's tour, as you can see, all the circles. getting back where we come in under Allied controlled territory and the less opportunity of being hit by German fighters. Because we was, you might say, related to civilian aircraft, we were being transported by Air Transport Command. And the old sergeant who was on the one that came to get us out of Warsaw said, you guys think you're the only one down? He said, half the 8th Air Force is down over here.
Are any other questions? Yes, sir, Roger.
Henry, during the Korean War, which aircraft did you fly, and how did that compare to the B-17?
Did you hear the question during Korean War? Yeah.
I flew a B-29. It was CFC, Central Fire Control. I could fire every gun on the airplane from my position. But that was not my favorite airplane. A smooth riding piece of machinery, but oh, they ever run hot engines all through. I tell you, I got a call notice on the bulletin board to report to the orderly room. The sergeant said, I got a call today for 50 gunners from Far East Air Force. I got to check your record. I said, fine. He pulled out the record and he said, oh, wait a minute, I can't use you. I said, what do you mean you can't use me? He said, you got less than 6 months to go on your enlistment. This is not a war, this is a police action. And we're not sending anyone overseas with 6 months or less to go. I said, Sergeant, you're breaking my heart. And in December of that year when I was getting out, he said, oh, you'll be back in 30 days. I said, Sergeant Griggs, if you guys ever send for me again, you better send something beside a piece of paper.
Outstanding. All right, well, I think we got too good of an opportunity here not to bring our other World War II veterans up here and place them beside Henry, and let's get a photo real quick. So someone could get Dick up here, Bob Jones, Jack, would you guys come up here so that we could just get a really good photo? Yes, sir.
Hold that right there.
Yes, sir. Just to reintroduce one more time, we'll just start over here. Dick Bailey, 9th Air Force. Henry Hughey, 8th Air Force. Bob Jones, China Theater, 27th Troop Carrier Command. Jack Kraft at the far end down there, 36th Infantry Division, Europe.